We're in week 3 of camp. Tell us a little bit about what you've learned from your team the last couple of weeks heading into Fan Appreciation Day on Saturday.
Yeah, so we've had 10 practices up to this point with one, what I would call a major scrimmage. We've had some mini scrimmages along the way, but Saturday was a major one, and I think we got a competitive team. I like how they show up and compete. We've not had to prod or anything like that to get them to come out to practice. Not that anything's been perfect by any means, but I do think they like practice and they like ball. They do enjoy competing and getting better, so that's been a positive that we've learned about these guys through the first 10. The rest of this week leading up to Fan Appreciation is a lot of time of increasing adversity. We've not had a lot of adversity from the good Lord as far as heat. So we've not had a lot of things that outside of the adversity that we can create to put more adverse situations. And so I think, we've got to create some more there to see how we respond when things aren't going our way. I think that's the next step for this team is to make sure that we're not front runners, to make sure that we keep fighting and competing at the highest level no matter circumstances. So, but I've been pleased with the way they've competed so far, and we've stayed mostly healthy up through 10. Practices there. We've had some usual nicks and things of that nature, and so. But like where we're at, I think the next 4 practices as we get into Fan Appreciation and school starting. Once school starts, you'll start turning your attention to your first opponent there, and so these next 4 to 5 practices will really determine, I think, how high the ceiling of this can be for this team.
Have you narrowed down the quarterbacks to 2 or 3 guys?
We've got through the first 9 or so there. They weren't equal reps, but going forward, Vasco and Berger will be getting a majority of the reps, with Merdinger getting a decent amount as well. Those 3 we've narrowed down to those 3 with Vasco and Berger competing out for who will be the starter.
As far as the rest of the offense, Coach Korn and some of the guys were saying that there was a faster install with the offense this year. But with so many new faces and the fluid depth charts, are you happy where the offense is right now, 10 practices in?
Yeah, I think there's a great grasp of what we're doing. Obviously, you've got some guys that, whether they played or not, they were at least in the system. So there's a grasp there, and they were here in the spring. The summers really helped with the guys in understanding and learning. I would say that our mental errors have not been near as much as they have in the past. I think there's certain things there we've got to be able to get better at from a consistency, taking care of the ball, and some of those things that we've got to improve. But our understanding and knowledge of our system up through 10 and eliminating things that beat ourselves is probably ahead of where we were, and so I am pleased with that.
With the quarterbacks, is it something to be said for experience? I mean, just having guys like you mentioned, Vasco and Berger, those are guys that have started. I mean, is there something to be said for that?
I think part of it. I mean, I think there's as you break down what helps this team win this year, right? And the other quarterbacks made great improvement. Ethan Houck is a freshman. There's a lot of good things that he did. He's not where he needs to be by any means, but man, he's got a bright future. Jaden, the same thing. Jaden made tremendous strides and got better. Jaden missed spring, so it really set him back, and he really came back and I thought had a good fall camp, but from a consistency standpoint, understanding what you got to do every down, not quite there yet. And so I think Vasco and Berger do have that experience in being in systems and playing some, and so there is something to that. I think they've been the most consistent to give us the chance, to go out and win a game. But I think Mike's had a good from where he came in the spring to this now. If Mike ended up being the quarterback, we can win a lot of games with Mike. Well, we believe that. And so I think Mike made a lot of strides. Those other 2 are just ahead of where we need them to be right now to go out and try to accomplish what we want to accomplish. And so as your practice windows get shorter, you can't rep everybody. The way to continue to get better, you got to narrow it down. And we made that decision. And so, but experience does help for sure. And being able to, operate the system the way you want it to operate to the full extent.
What else did you take away from the scrimmage on Saturday, both sides of the ball?
From a from a negative standpoint, that was the first time probably where we had some heat. I think that affected us a little bit as far as our energy. And one of the main points we've been preaching all camp is we're not going to be circumstantial. We're not going to just look at a schedule and say, well, we think we can beat that team and not give our best effort. And so I was disappointed from that. I didn't think our energy was there it needed to be. We allowed some outside circumstances to affect our mindset. As far as from another thing, there's the first time having officials, so we had some little bit more foolish and penalties that you want to avoid from whether that's, we had a couple times where we had a receiver covering up another receiver, little things of that nature that you can't do. And so those are things that I want to see us improve. I thought from a standpoint of situational and the effort that we gave throughout, we had 128 plays, which that's a good amount of plays, 128 plays, and so it's a good scrimmage. I thought our effort was really consistent. And so, which is good. One thing that I'm talking about is the effort you play with, and I thought our guys played with a lot of effort. And so a lot of positives to build off of it, but that was the first time being in with officials and the heat on us a little bit, for really the first time all fall camp. And so I think that messed with us a little bit, and we can't allow that to happen. So it was a good learning curve for us.
As you kind of hone in on these 2 or 3 quarterbacks in the last week or so of camp, what are the traits that are going to stick out, in the winter of this? I'm sure you're going to be splitting hairs a little bit when it comes down to making your final choice. So what do you really kind of look out for in the 2 guys that are going to be battling?
Well, I think one, this is the consistency from each practice, from each meeting, like who's the most consistent gives us the chance to move the ball, score touchdowns, win games. And then I think secondly, from a physical standpoint, who's taking care of the ball. Like, we can't put the ball in precarious situations. They got to protect the ball, but also, who's going to rally around? But who's going to bring that team together? Who's going to unite us to make sure that guys are playing hard? And I think whoever wins the job, I'm 100% confident the team will be behind. They're great leaders. They care about their teammates, and so they've been great in the locker room. So I don't worry about that, but I think that's important too. Those guys are behind those guys, and so it's been a good battle up to this point. It'll continue to be a good battle. I couldn't tell you right now exactly, this guy's in the lead. I mean, I think they both did some good stuff. There's some areas of improvement, but they're competing hard right now.
Just to follow up on that, the reception from the players in the locker room, right? Because Berger was here last year, Vasco's coming in. Have you noticed anything, with how the players that were here last year are treating those guys? I'm sure it's pretty similar overall, but how do you think they're reacting to this?
No, I think they'll be. Whoever wins the job, they'll be supportive of and be behind, because they both have a great way of leading in their own different way, but they both generally do care about their teammates, and they show that in their actions and the way they spend time. And so I think whoever wins the job, the full team will be behind them because of the way that those guys, Berger's obviously been here longer, but just the way those guys interact with their team, not only on the offensive side, but the whole team, and the way that they're humble. They don't think that the program is about themselves, and so players see that and they're drawn to that.
Have you seen anybody step forward in the receiver room so far?
I think our receivers have done a really nice job up to camp. I think with the exception of yesterday, we had some drop passes that were unlikely that hadn't happened. But Dante Lee's had a great camp. Jamari Persons had a really good camp. And really, those two have really stood out consistently, I think, and done some good stuff all the time. And we need that. We've got some guys, coming off of injury. Casey Cain's made some plays, but he's still working through an injury. Reese has made some nice plays, still working through an injury. Darius Copeland's still working through an injury. So we've got some of those guys have been limited how much they can actually do. But the guys that have been out there consistently, I think Jamari and Dante have made some plays, and Tyson Mobley's made some good plays. So I'm pleased with the effort they're giving. I'm pleased with the plays they're making. I think they're blocking on the perimeter well, and so they've had a good camp up to this point. But those two have and if you throw Tyson, they've made some plays for us consistently down the field. And if we can get those guys that are banged up back healthy, and Elijah Cannon's another one that's limited in some of the things he can do up to this point. If we can get those guys back healthy, I think we'll have a really well-rounded receiver room.
How close are you to having a primary 5 offensive line unit?
We've rotated. Not every day, but we've had maybe a different starting 5 just to see how guys respond. I think if we went out tomorrow, we'd know who would start. from that standpoint. I think we're still letting it play out a little bit to see how guys fit, and if this guy gets an opportunity here, does he take advantage of it? But we know who we would probably roll out tomorrow if we had to. We're going to still let some battles happen, and we'll make that decision here in the next week or so. But I anticipate us probably playing 7 guys throughout a game, from a standpoint. I'm not saying they're all 7 equal, but I could see us playing 7 guys of being able to give some of the guys rest. Maybe you rest a tackle, you rotate a tackle in, and then rotate a guard in just to try to get some guys some different rest. So if they play 45 plays, it's the best 45 plays they got. Maybe they're great at 45 and they get to 60, so we're going to maximize those guys' reps and where they can be their best. And some other guys that have maybe earned some playing time, they get that as well.
What about the linebacker room? That was another position you wanted to focus.
Yeah, there's a lot of competition there. I think I don't know right now necessarily who would be the starter. There's some guys there that are fighting for it. I think you'll see that group probably play a decent amount, have a little rotation with that. Joe Carter obviously has played a lot of football. Joe's going to be out there. I think the other positions are up in the air and battling as far as who's the first guy to run out there. But I think if you ask our defensive coaches, they like some depth that we have there, and I think we can do a lot of different things with the linebackers we brought in. Maybe do some different things defensively than we have in the past because of their athleticism. So I guess you have to wait and see on Saturday, August 30th, 31st, whatever day it is.
You spoke a couple weeks ago about thinking this defense could be dominant, had the potential to be dominant. Have you been pleased with their effort and intensity through this point?
Yeah, I think their effort's been great. They've been competitive. They've pushed each other. I think the challenge for if we dominate in a day's world, what does that look like? You're not holding anybody to 0 points. That's not happening. But from a dominant standpoint, what I'm talking about is that we play with an unbelievable effort and we're not giving up cheap plays, right? And if you want to be dominant, you make everybody earn it. And I think we have the capability of doing that if we're locked in and doing the things we're capable of and playing to the standard that our defense has. And so through 10 practices, I would tell you there might have been one day where maybe it's dropped off, and whether that was a heat day or something where we didn't play up to that standard consistently. Maybe there were some snaps, but we allowed some snaps to happen that wasn't our standard. And so, but we're definitely way better on that side of the ball. I think their mindset's way better. I think we're putting in, some more things because we do have some older guys, and so we're stressing them to see what they can do and what we're going to be great at, and maybe some different things. And so I'm excited about their continued growth. I think their mentality's been good every single day, and they're hungry. And I'm looking forward to seeing once we get through this camp and get it complete and really have the guys in their roles and everybody knows what the role is and they can really hone in on that, of how good that side of the ball can get. Where, can they be dominant where, man, if the opposing team knows, hey, this is a battle, they're not going to give us anything free. I'd love to say, hey, we're going to throw everybody scoreless. That's not happening. But can we go out there and make it a battle? And I think this team has the mindset and the capability of doing that.
Coach McGee was in here yesterday talking about the defensive line. He said he envisions guys playing like 20, 25 snaps a quarter, or excuse me, a game this year. Is that a product of last year, just kind of seeing so many guys playing a lot of reps, or is it just kind of a product of the personnel? You feel good about the depth that you have at this spot?
Well, I think, if guys earn it by their play and practice, then you want to give them the opportunity to do that in a game, right? And so I do think we have some depth. You're not just going to play because you're depth. You got to earn that role, what that looks like. But I do think we have enough guys in our front 7 where there can be some type of rotation. What's that? I'm not saying it's even or anything like that, but where you feel like, hey, if this guy goes in, there's not much of a drop-off from that standpoint. And so I do think there's an opportunity there. I think the challenge has got to be if you're getting 25 plays, man, we got to have the best 25 you got, right? It can't be, you play 25 and you play pretty good 15 and you stink on 10, well, then we're not very good. And so that's going to be the challenge is you're not guaranteed whatever rep is, but whatever you get, you better maximize those and make the most of them, because that's how, 1, you keep your reps, and 2, you hopefully gain more, because when you go out there and do it and you show you can do it consistently. What happens in a scrimmage as opposed to a practice is, practice is very contained as far as segments of it. So, hey, this situation, and so we're working this specific situation. Well, you can be locked in on that specific situation because it's a third down situation. All we're doing is third down. But when you're in a scrimmage and it's first down, it's second down, it's third and long, it's third and short, it's fourth down. Now, a lot of different things you got to think about. Can you produce when it's not a special situation that you know what's coming. And so I think that showed up in the scrimmage a little bit with some guys. And so that's the next area that we got to improve on.
Outside of Saturday, do you have another scrimmage, or is it?
We
What do you hope to get done Saturday?
we do some mini ones sort of throughout practice where we have a little 10-minute, 15-minute, whatever it may be, just doing some things. The fan appreciation, it'll be a mini version of that, but we don't do a lot from a standpoint of all kinds of different situations and during that. So yesterday we did a decent amount. And today, tomorrow, Thursday will be a lot of different mini scrimmages to continue to put guys in situations to see how they respond. Yesterday was the first one after the scrimmage as far as here's 15 minutes to see what happens, and we had some drives. And so we'll continue to do that. And then Saturday, it'll be like a dress rehearsal from a standpoint of this is where we sit on the bench. This is where you go after the quarter, getting some new guys' understanding of that because it is new for them, and we'll obviously go out and practice. But it'll be minimal as far as some situations and specific stuff. So we're going to get a lot of that done this week.
Coach, what's your assessment of your running back so far through camp?
I think we've got a talented group. We're very inexperienced, and so that's the piece that. When the lights are on, who's going to show up and who's going to consistently do what they need to do. You obviously feel like, Juju's got a chance to be a really good player. Vaughn's got a chance, our blue-gray backfield there's got a chance to be pretty solid. But both of them have not played tons of football, at least, in the position, right? And then you got some young redshirt freshmen in Caden. And then Evan Dickens came in. Evan had a really good scrimmage. And so we got some guys that I think that are very capable, and I think we can be a surprise to that because I think everybody thinks it's going to drop down because we lost them, and we did. And we have a high standard for our running backs, from what we do, and so there's a standard those guys know they got to live up to. But I've been pleased. Early on, we had some issues with holding on to the ball. And, that's one thing that we obviously can't have. And so they've improved that the last several practices. But I think that's going to be the key. Who do we trust in there that's going to take care of the ball? Who do we trust is going to pick up the blitz? I think anybody can run it, but who do we trust can do that complete player? And I think that's going to be, maximizing who's in there when we need to be. That's going to be the challenge for Coach Isaac as we continue to go through this.